This is probably what you think of when I say beef stroganoff. It has an ingredient list that only a chemist would love, not to mention make you cringe. Today, you're going to see how to make a better scratch version that would make your 20th level Heflin with max ranks and cooking proud. At only 8 ingredients: onions, mushrooms, meat, garlic, egg noodles, sour cream, oil, and butter. You're watching the Gamer Gourmet with Goddess Estrella.
Hey everybody, Goddess Estrella here, and today we're making beef stroganoff. I've already got my water boiling for my noodles, which I'm going to go ahead and add. Now, obviously, my noodles did not come in this big badass apothecary jar. I'm just that awesome that I have one. Water has... Now, I also did add salt to the water because when you're cooking noodles, or as they put it labeled on the box, a macaroni product, the only opportunity you have to put flavor into the noodles is in the cooking liquid. So you can either boil them in some kind of stock to add additional flavor, or you just really salt the water. Now that's going to take about 5 to 7 minutes to fully cook through, which is about enough time to make our stroganoff. We start out with a tablespoon of butter. Now granted, I am starting off here in a cold pan, but warm pan, cold pan, doesn't matter as long as it melts the butter. Add a little bit of olive oil on there. And no, this is not extra virgin. Big problem I have with some chefs using extra virgin olive oil. Extra virgin olive oil is very fruity. It is meant to dress salads, provide extra, provide that lovely little olive flavor to your dish. Your regular olive oil is actually meant for cooking. It has a much higher smoke point and a more neutral flavor. Yes, a little bit more. It is a little more expensive than your standard vegetable oil or canola oil, but a lot of people prefer the flavor to it. It's also a regional thing. You know, if you do a lot of Italian, you're generally gonna use more olive oil than canola or vegetable oil. Now, once your butter melts, which it's almost melted there, you're going to come in and add a generous scoop of minced garlic. And yes, I can mince this garlic myself if I want to, but that's a lot of knife work on something very small, and honestly, I dislike having to bleed. So I'll buy it pre-chopped in the jar. If you wanna risk your fingertips, go right on ahead. I know some people out there don't have the knife skills to handle this. But if you do, have fun with that. Now, have 1 medium sweet Vidalia onion. You can use whatever type of onion you like. I use sweet Vidalias or Walla Wallas because, well, they have a lower sulfur content, so they don't make me cry as much when I cut them. Again, you can go to Walmart or some of your other supermarkets, and you can buy tubs of the onions pre-chopped. If you don't have the knife skills, go right for it. Me, I'll stick to what I know and what I'm comfortable with. Now, these are going to take a few minutes to cook. We really want them to start to caramelize and really just release all that lovely goodness that they have to provide. Because onions, while you might not like the actual taste or texture of biting into a whole onion, it's actually a very that mild sweetness that a caramelized onion can provide is awesome. Now this is Celtic sea salt. Basically helps to sweat down the vegetables. I just have a little grinder here. You can order it online, or if you happen to know a specialty shop in your area, you can get it there. You don't have to add the salt, but at this stage in the cooking, it's actually a good idea. because, as I said, it can help pull the moisture out of the onions, get them cooking down. You really want to wait to add the mushrooms until the onions are starting to get translucent. I'm not going to say transparent because that's a big misnomer that a lot of people use. Transparent would indicate that they are actually turning invisible. And translucent is exactly what they do. They start to lose some of their opacity. I'd say about 50% opacity, but they never go completely invisible. Okay, these are about where I want them to be. We're going to go ahead and add the mushrooms. Now, I know this looks like a lot of mushrooms. Point here is, these are going to shrivel up and break down as they cook. Now, I'm going to break a little bit of these up with, these up a little bit with my spatula here, but I really don't even need to do that because these are going to shrink up a bit. Actually, they'll shrink up quite a bit as they cook. Now, if it seems like your pan's getting a little too dry, you can add a little bit more oil. The pan at this point is really too hot right at this point to add more butter. All it would do at this point is scorch. And that's one thing you do have to keep in mind is that whatever your cooking fat is, you have to keep an eye on it. You do have to keep an eye there, because if it starts to scorch, it's going to make your food bitter. Bitter food is bad food. See, and those mushrooms are just picking up that color very nicely. Now, once we've got all of our veggies cooked down, is when we're going to add the meat, which is what I'm working with. I usually use stew meat. What I'm working with today is bottom round steak that's been sliced up for stir fry meat, and then I just cut that across, made the strips a little shorter. And all that's, you're not burning anything if you hear sizzling. Sizzling means that moisture is being released and it's keeping the pan to some degree lubricated. And this is just a nice dish that you can make on for your Saturday night gaming group or Friday night gaming group, whatever. Say, hey guys, I made dinner and it ain't out of a box. That'll win you brownie points with the GM. Correct me if I'm wrong, dear. Cooking for the GM always wins brownie points.
Cooking for the GM always wins brownie points. Take note of this.
Yes. Great little tradition you can start called GM bribes.
GMs generally do not want to do their own cooking any more than you do, and the less you take off of their hides, the more likely they'll reward you in a very intangible and usually free way, namely with in-game rewards.
Or additional XP.
In other words, save those moments and time them right when you want that weapon, or you want that stat, or you want that other character archetype that he normally would punch you out of the group for even suggesting.
Okay, my noodles are actually ready at this point. We're just going to go ahead and bring these in the colander and let them sit. Now, for those of you who meet the very stereotypical gamer stereotype of still living in mom's basement, and you don't know if mom if there's a colander in the house, ask mom. She will be, if she thinks that you are going to start cooking your own meals instead of asking her if there's pizza in the fridge, she'll be happy. She'll be more than happy to show you everything. For those of you who were just too embarrassed to ask mom, it's that funny bowl. That funny bowl with the feet on it that has holes in it. When you were about 8 years old, you probably used it as a helmet when you were using paper towel tubes or wrapping paper rolls for swords. And you can see what I mean by these cook down these do cook down quite a bit. These aren't even halfway. These aren't even halfway cooked down. I could probably take these down quite a bit further, but I would only really do that if I was making something like duck salad. And you only make duck salad if you're doing some fancy French cooking, or you're making beef Wellington. Nuttiness of the butter, when mushrooms cook up right, they have this very meaty taste. About ready. As I said, I'm not cooking this down completely because right now we've got a good we've got a good semi-caramelization of the onions. The mushrooms are good and sweated. They're broken down quite a bit. Scrape all that down into that pan. Add just a touch more olive oil. So just a touch, you don't want a whole heck of a lot here. And all this brown on the bottom of the pan, it'll come up, trust me. Now, when it comes to your beef, cook it to whatever doneness you prefer. I like mine rare to medium rare. I know a lot of people prefer it well done because
weirdos.
Then it can be, well, no, everyone can have their own opinion on doneness. Now, remember what I said about the brown, about all that brown on the bottom of the pan coming up? See, there it is. See all those juices? That is flavor, people. If you can take the awesomeness, if you can take a piece of meat that is fairly awesome and extract the raw awesomeness out of it, it's that brown stuff at the bottom of the pan. The French call it fawn. Around here we just call it damn good. Now, okay. Now, if you follow some people's suggestion and you go pound of meat, pound of noodles, pound of veggies, you're going to wind up with 3 pounds of food before you dress it, before you even dress the food, and it's going to be very noodle heavy. I did about a half a pound of noodles here, and it was a little over a pound of beef. I didn't weigh the veggies. I'm not that nuts. You see how we got a good mix here? There's a good mix of noodles to beef and veggies. Now, this is not the end product still. I know you're saying, Goddess, that looks good. Dig in. We're not ready. Still got to get the star of the show, what gives Stroganoff its punch. And that is sour cream. Now, you could use this whole 16-ounce container if you wanted to, and it would be very, 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 very creamy. Me, I'm not opposed to doing that. But some people, like my husband, don't like it that creamy. They like to have a little restraint, so we're only using half the container. And I know that still looks like a lot. And he will complain that it is still a lot.
We'll get over it.
No, live. What here?
Reasonable chance.
This is the part where it starts to look delicious.
Now that we've got... Now, the sour cream, adding it cold like that, does 2 things. 1, stops the cooking process. 2, so it still had all that starch on the noodles, so it really adheres to that. It's automatically going to cling to the meat. And the veggies, well, they're just adding their goodness in there too. And the meat juice. And there you go. Beef stroganoff, quick, simple, and an